This is one of the biggest paradoxes in mindfulness training. Spending time in what looks like doing nothing is actually one of the most radical and transformative choices we can make. And here's why. Hi again, welcome back to our Shine Collective. My name is Liz and we are here to support your conscious evolution with our emotional well-being series. We have begun exploring the idea of mindfulness in the previous video and talked about some misconceptions that prevents many of us from ever attempting to practice mindfulness. This week, we are shifting our focus to what mindfulness actually is. Many studies have been conducted to uncover the underlying mechanisms of the practice and understand its role in processes like self-regulation, impulsivity, executive functioning, and memory. So far, we know that mindfulness is an essential predictor of well-being. But what is mindfulness? How do we define it? And what are the essential ingredients of mindfulness? First off, mindfulness is widespread, although that was not always the case. In the Western world, mindfulness began with the growth of Zen Buddhism in the 50s and 60s. Psychotherapists began to integrate meditation techniques into their practice. Researchers experimented with ways to heighten awareness and explore higher levels of consciousness, including through drugs and meditation. You might be familiar with some of these researchers, such as Dr. Timothy Leary and Dr. Richard Albert, who became known as Ram Dass. Their controversial teachings on the use of psychedelics for expanding consciousness and achieving spiritual awakening are notorious in the field of psychology, and also what ultimately led them to be dismissed from Harvard and mainstream academia. In the early 70s, Ram Dass published a book that became the mission statement for a generation of individuals who sought spiritual enlightenment outside the boundaries of conventional religions. This happened a few years before Zen Buddhism author, teacher, and often referred to as the father of mindfulness in the West, Thich Nhat Hanh, released what would be the manual for mindfulness practice. Since then, mindfulness has become quite mainstream, particularly with the introduction of positive psychology. The number of scientific studies has grown significantly. Just so that you can have a better idea, today there are about 40 publications a month on mindfulness, particularly in clinical practice, with many successful studies promising results. This evidence is ushering a third wave of therapies that rely on mindfulness and acceptance or perception creation, as opposed to cognitive behavioral therapies whose focus is on behaviors or manifestation. These training programs include mindfulness-based stress reduction training programs, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy and eating awareness training, acceptance and commitment therapy, and eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, or EMDR for short. This list will soon become longer with the introduction of psychedelic therapy, and I'm super excited about it, as renewed investigations show remarkable results on the use of psychedelic substances in controlled environments to treat addiction, depression, anxiety, palliative care, and post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. As you can see, mindfulness is not a new concept. In fact, it has been around for quite some time, has been part of the Buddhistic psychology for over 2,000 years. The word mindfulness derives from the English translation of the Pali word sati, meaning roughly to come back to awareness. Mindfulness is a practice of being aware, focused, and accepting of the present moment without the need for distractions, evaluations, or any other thought processes. This focus can be directed inside as well as outside of ourselves. Attention to feelings, emotions, or thoughts, for example, is directed inward. When we focus on a conversation with a friend, contemplate the trees in a forest, listen to sounds, or read a book, our attention is directed outward. This may sound easy, but how often is your attention redirected by your thoughts? Although thinking is a remarkable evolutionary tool as it allows us to better adapt to our environments and make wiser decisions, when we reinforce our mind's ability to overthink, we often find ourselves suffering needlessly. That is because without self-regulation, our minds can get easily lost in a cycle of worrying and rumination. Our thoughts feed into these emotional patterns like fear and sadness as we rehash the conversation we had yesterday, second guess every decision we make, or imagine disastrous outcomes, worrying about what might happen tomorrow. In our minds, we're constantly busy with the things that need to be taken off our to-do list, and these destructive thought patterns wreak havoc on our mood. Mindfulness teaches us to create a different relationship with our thoughts, feelings, and emotion. How does it do that? By increasing the quality of our attention and directing our awareness to the now moment in an open and non-judgmental way. Mindful attention means attention without judgment. Often, sensations like tension or fear are quickly labeled as bad, inappropriate, or unwanted. When we judge a particular feeling, I experience fear, this is bad, I don't want to feel this way, we automatically create a conflict between the current feeling, bad, and the expected or ideal feeling, which is to feel good. Any attempt to resolve this conflict, for instance, by suppressing a negative feeling, requires a lot of energy, and as we have discussed before, will cause us to feel even worse. Being open and non-judgmental also plays a crucial role in mindfulness. Through mindful attention and acceptance, we allow every feeling, emotion, sensation, or thought to be present. After all, they're already there anyway. Yet, instead of resisting these feelings or thought, mindfulness fosters our willingness to acknowledge, to allow and accept these internal states. In the observance of their presence, we can let go of the need to struggle and fight, and instead realize that the things we fight against often fade away automatically, much sooner than when we actively fight against them. As soon as we recognize what we experience, we can also see it as a temporary state. This too shall pass. In this way, we're no longer identified or completely lost in the content of our thoughts or feelings, but rather become an observer of our own inner states. Now, sitting with ourselves and just observing our inner states is no easy task. This is one of the biggest paradoxes in mindfulness training. Spending time in what looks like doing nothing is actually one of the most radical and transformative choices we can make. And here's why. When we're meditating, doing something we truly enjoy, or relaxing and not thinking about anything at all, you are in the present moment. When you're present and when your focus is entirely on what is occurring in that moment, within and outside of you, you are vibrating at a higher frequency. You are in this coherent state of being that accepts and allows everything to be as it is. That is why these activities are so important for our mental, emotional, and spiritual evolution. This observer state can still experience emotions and feelings, and it can also decide whether if you want to be fully taken by them. By observing our thoughts without judgment, we can experience their transient nature and even question their authenticity. What exactly do we need to begin cultivating a mindfulness practice to improve our emotional health? We will share with you some ideas to get you started in the next video. For now, please like, share, and subscribe, and take care of yourselves.